Well, hello and welcome to another episode. It is Life in Spain Unfiltered, and good evening, Mark.
Good evening, Daniel. Here we go again. I think this is now our fourth episode we're going to be recording this evening.
It is
I
indeed.
I dread to think what our view counts are on the first three. Did they all come together to 100 yet or not? But we'll keep on playing.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Right, I've got well, viewers won't know this, but I came to visit you at the weekend to help you out with a few bits and bobs. And I was thinking maybe a good subject for today's episode would be life in the countryside in Spain, because you are living the country dream.
Living the dream indeed. Yeah, out in the sticks on my Todd. Yeah, it's amazing, and thank you for the help, by the way. It was so much appreciated. Yeah, yeah, we can talk about that. No problem.
Well, let's give it some perspective. I mean, you've lived here for 37 years. I've lived here 20, coming up to 23. I've always lived on the coast. And up until recently, you were the same. But was it 18 months ago you moved inland?
Yeah, just over. Yeah, 18 months. Yeah.
And can you give us, without giving your location away, of course, could you let us know we can find you?
Well, you're not going to find me unless you go scooting on Google Maps. You can find me anytime. Well, it's about 35 minutes away from Malaga Airport, and the same distance to the coast as well. So very, very well. It's very central to where I need to get to if I want to, but it's also far enough away to be away from everything.
It was a beautiful drive. I mean, I picked this weekend in particular. I picked the most picturesque day. The reason why we live here, and it was blue skies and sunshine, and it was glorious driving up into the countryside. Right, let's get to the nuts and bolts of the matter.
Go on then.
Living, I mean, a lot of people come here and make a decision. Where do I live? We are both based here in Andalusia, and the Andalusian lifestyle couldn't be more different. I mean, you have the big cities like the Malagas, the Seville, and places like that, which are very cosmopolitan in many ways. You have the smaller villages, which is close to where you live, and where I live, which is Costa del Sol, which is a mixing pot of different nationalities. Now, you've made the decision to move inland. Do you want to let people know why you made that decision?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it was a case of not wanting to live that transitional lifestyle and that bar lifestyle, and because it's not like in the UK where you go, I'm going to go around my mates for a coffee or even for a drink, for a beer, go around my mate's house for a beer. It's not done so much here, especially within the British or the expat community. I mean, I've been here for so long. I've got so many Spanish friends and family as well, and in that kind of area, it is you do see a lot more going around to barbecues, but it's again very weather orientated. But within the British and the expat community, it's not the same. You don't go around to your mate's house for a cup of coffee or a beer. You go down the pub, or you go down the bar, or you meet out for dinner, or you go, and that's the kind of thing that I got a little bit fed up of. And I'd been thinking about moving into the countryside for a while, and eventually got the chance to do so.
You make a really good, valid point there. I mean, it does pretty come down to cultural differences. That, I mean, the Spanish, they do love a barbecue, and they do meet up. There's various parks here which are slightly inland where people meet up on weekends and have birthdays and things like that. But the British culture and the Irish culture, to be fair, is built around the pub. Now, I would disagree with you slightly there, because the Spanish do tend to have a coffee culture here, and they do like to meet in a cafe. And of course, like all Western cultures, they do go out and meet in bars. But you are right; you don't get invited to many people's houses. You tend to meet in a pub or a cafe.
I mean, since I've been here 2 years. Well, okay, yeah, coming up to 2 years, and I think I have had here at the house probably a dozen barbecues. Maybe even a couple more, simply because instead of wanting to go down to the coast and overspend down there in a bar and restaurant and then have to drive back and having a drink and this and that, I'm in the comfort of my own home. I'm lucky that I've got some land and space to accommodate people to come up, park their cars here, be safe, and be it peaceful as well, and not overspend. I mean, you know what it's like to go out 15 people or 12 people or even just a group of four of you and eat out, drink out, and everything else. It's getting more and more expensive. So the home option is just more popular.
Yeah, I get that completely. Right. So for people who don't know, I'll describe how I see your humble abode. Right. To find you, you have to come through, I think, between some Coin and Monda, isn't it?
That's right.
And you turn off the main road and there's a dirt track. Then you go on another dirt track and over a little hill, then up another hill, which I dread to take at night time. And eventually you get to this lovely gate, and there's two huge dogs come barking at you, and you drive in. Now, what Daniel is the most spectacular thing about where he lives is the views. I was completely taken back the first time I walked onto your terrace, which is literally a step out your front door, and you can basically see the whole valley in front of you. It is absolutely amazing. The
It's
house
this,
itself is quite small, but the views.
yeah, it was a selling point for me because when I started looking, I got a message from a friend on another platform, and they said, "Oh, there's a place coming up. A friend of mine that's an estate agent. Do you want me to send you some pictures?" And I went, "Okay, fair enough." As soon as I saw the pictures, I went, "Ooh, that's interesting." And I managed to find where it was without being given the address. I found it and I came up unannounced. I didn't get to see inside the house because I didn't have an appointment or anything else. And I stood behind the house up on the raised part of the road behind and
Wow.
looked across the valley and I went, and I just knew straight away that it's what I wanted to do. And that's the same feeling that pretty much anyone gets when they come and stand here for the first time and stand on the terrace and look out and they just go, ah, and just
So
take it in.
I used to get something similar. I mean, I love your view from your house, and I used to tell people when I bought my bar here, my bar was on the seafront, and I was on the first floor, and people I would say, no matter how fed up I got, I just stand on my terrace and look out at the sea, and it would just completely chill me out. And I could imagine that's probably even more so for you because there's so much more to see there, and the scenery changes so much with the lights and the time of day. And even when I was there, it was the cloud cover was coming across and changing the shadows. It just looked, it's just spectacular. That's the only word for it, spectacular.
Temperature change, light change, color change, and everything. In all honesty, though, Mark, when I remember going to your bar many times and sitting on the terrace, and I've got some amazing pictures from that terrace, and some great memories of people watching and looking what's going on, and it's there's the beauty is to have those things so close. We really are spoiled because we've got the Sierra Nevada about an hour and a half away. We've got inland mountains where I am, for example, which are half an hour away, and then you've got the beach at the bottom, and amazing beaches and amazing views. We really are spoiled where we are.
Yeah, well, 100%. I mean, people always talk about Vancouver, don't they, in Canada, having the perfect thing. They almost joke that you can ski, and as you're coming down the ski slopes, you can see people on the beach. I mean, how true that is, I don't know, but I don't think we're far off here because you can be in the Sierra Nevada, probably just over an hour from Fongarola, where I am. Right, let's get to some logistics. I always wonder how you get on up there because I did notice in your back garden there was this huge water tank. Now, how do you deal with your utilities? Let's start with the simple stuff like water and sewage. How's that how's that dealt with up and where you are?
Well, the water comes from a well. That's a well water. The wells, I believe, it's around about 95 meters deep. That's inside the property. And sewage wise, then it's a septic tank. All the neighbours around the area have got septic tanks. There's no main sewage, and as long as you look after your septic tank, then it looks after you. So, yeah, it's an ongoing job. I've never realised how difficult it was and how ongoing. But yeah, it is. It's it's a strange thing to understand how it works. But once you grasp it, it's okay.
I imagine seeing would be leaving that case. I dread to think a large vehicle or a truck of some sort reversing up that hill by where you live to try and empty your septic tank. How do they logistically? How do they do that?
Well, I'm lucky because the area, as you know, when you come through the gate, I've got quite a large area, so that the
Yeah.
tractor drives up with the tanker on the back, and
Oh, a
actually
track.
turns round in the property because the tanker isn't too long. So I've fortunately enough, I've got enough room for someone else. Yeah, it's going to be a real quest even for my neighbours, for example, that don't have the same amount of turnaround room. Oh yeah, it's not easy.
I was visioning some like a big lorry driving up there, with an eight-wheeler or something like that. Obviously, that's not the case.
No,
What
no, no.
about things? The world's very interesting. So that is that drinkable, that water, or
No, there's too much slate in it. There's too much going on. I guess at some point you could put it through a treatment process. You can cook with it. There's no problem there, because you're boiling it most of the time and you're cooking with it. But it's no, you can't really you can't drink it. Too
right?
much
And
slate.
The first time I came to visit you, well, it was after the first time. You must come up and watch a game of football sometime. And you go, depends on the cloud cover of the day, but we should be okay with the internet. And I was like, what do you mean by the cloud cover? So rather than me trying to explain what you meant by the cloud cover on the internet, maybe you could fill the gaps in.
Well, when I first moved in, I was wondering what to do. I mean, I was already a member, well, I still am a client of a telephone company, and I thought, shall I get a SIM card router? Shall I go for another route? And then there were some neighbours that said, oh no, you need to try this company because they have antennas which point towards another antenna, and it's line of sight, and it's a frequency, and you get that line of sight, and you get a decent bandwidth. I said, okay, fair enough. So I tried it out, and in all fairness, it wasn't too bad. I was sold a package which I couldn't get in the end, which meant they had to adjust my invoice, which they did. But eventually, on the odd days when the cloud would be very low, because I'm at 282 meters above sea level, and yes, there are clouds that come below, and it's quite fun to see, and it's very impressive. But when that's there, the line of sight to the mast is gone, and all of a sudden, it's like you're on an old dial-up connection when it comes to the internet. So I changed, and I found an offer online for a well-known imitation Santa Claus array of satellites in the air, and I went for that. And in all fairness, since I've done that, off the chart. I mean, I've got better internet than some people on the coast.
Now, when it comes to things like, because you're outside of in the countryside itself, so when you need to go do your supermarket shopping, I presume you go to one of the local villages. But what about local produce? Are there people in the area that produce things like egg? Are there local farmers, or is it all kind of like criminals hidden away in the countryside?
It used to be. I'm sure there's still some left. But anyway, I can't talk about them because they'll come and find me. Anyway, yes, there's local produce. There are lots of local areas that you can go and get. I mean, not too far away. I won't say very close, but it's not too far away. There's a chicken farm and they sell eggs, and there are lots of places around. I can definitely get more local produce here where I am around this area than I could on the coast.
And does that work out cheaper? Because that's a source of debate on the news at the moment is how much things cost, and local produce can be a lot more expensive than supermarkets.
They can be. It's like going down the ecological route. But if you go to local people that you eventually you go there as a one-time buyer, and there's a possibility that you might get charged a little bit more, but it's not very often that happens. But for example, paying an extra 40 cents or 50 cents for a dozen eggs doesn't bother me at all. It's not going to break the bank. Do you know what I mean? But at least I know where they're coming from.
Those fields of trees as you come up, they're all olive groves, are they? Near your house, are they?
There are olive groves and avocados. Avocados tend to be the ones that have popped up more recently because of the need for them. That is also what's causing a lot of the water issues in Andalusia because of the amount of avocado plantations, and they need a lot more water than olive trees. The whole issue with, do you remember when the price of olive oil started skyrocketing? They're going, it's because of the water shortage. It's got nothing to do with the water. The avocados need more water than the olive trees do.
There was a lot of cases, wasn't there, here when the avocados became trendy here. And I only had a conversation with someone yesterday, and I'm pretty sure an avocado, a Spanish avocado, was cheaper than Ireland than it was here, which didn't make any sense. But there were all these horror stories about farmers changing their crops to farm avocados because they could make more money out of it, and they were robbing the water, weren't they? They were tapping into the water table. I imagine like you've got.
Well, I mean, my neighbours have got 2 plantations, and they go through a heck of a lot more. And even need to imagine being said, it's 4 or 5 times more water than an olive plantation needs, and that's on the lower part of the scale. So,
okay, one more interesting I got out, because when I went up, well, people won't know what we were up to the weekend. We were just having a general clean. But there was in your back garden or your backyard, there was a partially built swimming pool. Now, when I say partially built swimming pool, it was just a hole cut into the ground, which over the years before you got there would been used as a temporary rubbish tip, which turned into a permanent rubbish tip and was completely overgrown. So the 2 of us, being in the fine shape yard, endeavoured to clear that out, which we did a very good job doing. But I remember just saying to you, why on earth didn't they finish this swimming pool off? And you were saying, oh, that happens a lot around here because they're doing this, they're doing that. And you would talk to me about drones and planes. So give me the story of the swimming pool and why you haven't got a proper swimming pool in your background.
Well, the the constructor that did the houses in this area, obviously, I would assume that this one was the last one on probably on the builds. And for some reason, the hole was dug out, but they didn't finish it because, from what I'm told, is that they couldn't get the permission for it. They got the permission for the house, but not for the pool. And I think it was more to do with the water situation. It might have been later on with the build, and there was an issue back then with water at that time, and they said no, you can't finish it because of the. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but what I'm told is they just didn't get the permission to do it. But yeah, I mean, every now and again you'll see drones flying over, you'll see a helicopter flying over, and they're taking pictures. They're making sure that the farmhouses aren't being extended too much this way or too much that way, or you're not building on land that you haven't got the permission for, you haven't paid the licenses for, and stuff like that. So they're definitely keeping on top of it.
Yeah, that would make sense what you said about the water, but it does seem a crying shame. But I would say this time of year, I mean, if people want to know about the weather where Daniel lives, our very first episode on our channel, Life in Spain Unfiltered, was about the weather. It's about we've go to great depth the difference between where I live and where Daniel lives. So that'd be interesting if people want to hear about that. But also, I love the fireplace you have. Now, I said there was a few trees around you, but I can't imagine you going out with an axe and chopping those trees down. So how do you get your firewood, and how expensive is that to run a proper fire?
Well, this one is a bit greedy because the vent there are some slats underneath which close the stack, and for some reason they're not closing properly. So my firewood does burn quite quickly. But that said, every say 3 weeks in the winter, depending on the temperature, obviously, every 3 weeks I would order a cubic meter, which is 75 to 80 euros of a certain wood.
That would keep you going for 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah. Well, before we drag on too long with our video, can you give us a pro and a con?
Well, I'm lucky that I get down to the coast every day because of my work. So I would say the con for someone who doesn't work on the coast, you are out in the sticks. You have to change your lifestyle a lot. Your shopping habits, your socializing habits, your proximity to other people that you know, friends, family, the going to parties, going to dinner somewhere and having to drive back, those kind of things. Those are shall we say, the cons. The pros, wow, the pros are the peace of mind, the ability to do different things in the countryside and enjoy yourself if you're living on your own, or enjoy your partner with much less distractions than you would have on the coast. It's a different way of life. You're outside more. You're using your time in a much more constructive way.
It definitely is a simpler way of life up there. I don't think you're the perfect target for a thief because you're such a big lad and you've got these huge dogs, which are almost Shetland ponies, to tell the truth. But you did mention the lady who owned the house. She lived there for a period on her own, and I dread to think how that would have been for her. That'd been quite terrifying at times because you are quite isolated. Your neighbours are pretty 500, 300 meters away, and it is very quiet up there. So how is the safety aspect?
Safety is fine. I mean, as you say, I've got the two dogs, and they're outside all day, most of the night. They come in and sleep at night, but they're with me inside. Everything's secure. And yeah, you've got to be very brave to want to come near these two.
Yeah, definitely.
Touch wood, since I've been here, which is coming up to 2 years, as we mentioned before, there have been no incidents, as in no one's been around the area, and there are more dogs around the area now as well. So as soon as there's a lot of noise, we've all put different lights up. We've all got solar lights, which are motion sensors. We've got cameras, so it is a safe area, a very safe area. But there are places that aren't. I mean, you can risk it, and you can think that you're safe, and you're in the middle of nowhere, and you can get surprised. So it's just better to be safe than sorry, really.
Well, there we go. Well, I hope the people who've watched this have enjoyed Daniel's take on life in rural Spain, I think would be the way to put it, or rural Andalusia. I don't think it's for everybody. I think if I was to write a book, I think I'd be renting your house off you for 6 months or having a house trade with you for 6 months because I think it'd be the most wonderful spot to do that. But I think that will conclude our episode today. Don't you want to add anything or do your usual likes, comments?
If you want to subscribe, please do, because that helps us out immensely by sharing it. Also, you can do that down below, and if you're on another platform, you can do it over there or maybe over there, who knows. we also want you to engage. So if there's something within this video that's either annoyed you, or it surprised you, or it's made you think a little bit, then just say so. Let us know, because if we want to talk about it, if you want to talk about it, we'll talk about it as well. We are totally open to engaging and having a conversation about absolutely anything you might bring up.
I think on that idea, I think I'll bid you farewell. You enjoy the rest of your evening, Daniel, and I'll speak to you soon.
And you, mate. Take care. Speak to you soon.